Hello and welcome to Wannabe. We're diving deep with none other than Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, a true titan in the world of athletics. Shelly-Ann isn't just an athlete, she's a beacon of determination and perseverance. Often hailed as one of the greatest female sprinters ever, her accolades speak volumes. We're talking about 14 World Championship gold medals, the only sprinter with 5 world titles in the 100 meter, and 8 Olympic medals. But it's not just about the awards, it's about the story behind them. In today's episode, we dive deep into Shelly-Ann's remarkable journey, from the shift in her environment that expanded her horizons to how sports became her therapy, her unforgettable Olympic experiences, and the powerful lessons of motherhood. Shelly-Ann's story is one of determination, strength, and profound self-awareness. Let's get started. Who did you want to be before you became who you are today, and why?
If I'm being honest, growing up, I never really thought about something like that because seeing a lot of persons around me doing different things, it wasn't a case where, I wanted to be this. I really just wanted to survive. I wanted to just escape my environment because it was so stressful. But at the same time, I've always had a passion for helping. I've always wanted to help. Like that has always been who I am, who I was at that time growing up. I was always volunteering in something in church or always on the street helping someone. So I really think for me, that kind of set the tone for what I eventually branched off into is my Pocket Rocket Foundation and also helping student athletes to kind of, navigate their future and to see, and hopefully they'll be able to answer a question like this in the future.
Yeah.
But for me, I really never had, who I wanted to be. I was just trying to survive at that time. It was rough. I didn't have a lot of role models. Yeah, I saw my mom struggling to make ends meet and to provide for us, but it wasn't a situation where I was sitting down daily thinking, okay, I want to be this. I want to create that. That didn't come until eventually I probably left my environment. That's when I actually started to see a little glimmer of hope.
How would you describe the experience of things opening up for you? Like, what was the shift? What was the change in environment like that led to you actually branching out and imagining different possibilities?
Yeah. I would like to say at that time I was really scared. I was nervous. I didn't know how I was going to be perceived from other persons, and I didn't want to look how do I say? I didn't want to look desperate. That's the word. I didn't want to look desperate. I was almost acting like I had it all, and that's where pride came in. Mm-hmm. I remember leaving to Penn Relays when I was in high school at the time, and we went shopping, and one of our old girl, which is part of our old girl association from my high school, actually took us shopping. She was like, take up anything that you guys want and, just have fun. And I was so scared to take anything up because I was like, I didn't want persons to know, I couldn't afford to get this, or I didn't carry any, money with me to shop. So for me, when I actually started to receive that kind of openness, I kind of didn't know how to receive it, because I've never had it before. And I think being from an inner city here in Kingston, a lot of times persons give you something or, want to come into your life to assist. There's always something that they need from you. And maybe you're not willing to give it at, and it puts you in a compromising position. So for me, I've always been mindful of, just receiving things because I didn't know if I wanted to give what probably they wanted. I didn't know if it was genuine.
There isn't enough honesty about the fact that actually for a lot of people it is very, very, very difficult to receive. Like whether that be love, like anything, even physical, monetary.
Yeah,
and I know that
you don't know what comes with it.
Exactly, yeah. I know you mentioned pride, and I'm sure that definitely plays a role. But yes, it sounds like actually the idea that there's always a catch. And that's like a learned behavior, because you might have just experienced that every time you receive, there is a catch. And that's a really hard thing to unlearn.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the environment. I'm from a different environment from a lot of people, and I know there are persons who are in different environment that can relate to what I just said, but it was the truth. You're in a city where a lot of persons are trying to survive in different ways, and also a lot of persons who take advantage of those who are trying to survive. And it may not necessarily be sexual favors or anything. It can just be anything. They're probably like, oh, I need to work you, or you need to go and do this, you need to fetch this for me, or you need, to be able to be in an environment where someone shows you kindness without, asking anything. And I think that's genuine and that's real. And that's how I eventually framed or, look at myself, where anything that I do a part of my Pocket Rocket Foundation, I'm not asking you to, I don't own you. I'm doing this because I want to help you. I genuinely want to see you thrive. I want to see you excel. I want to see you evolve with no strings attached.
Let's talk about sport, because that is a very big part of your life and career thus far. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, right.
How did sports become a part of your life? How did running become a part of your life? Like at what point did it enter and then become a possibility that you could take this to the next level?
There's no flinching when I say it. It's like I've been running forever. I knew who I was running. I remember at 3 years old, I was at my basic school, and there was an earthquake, and I vividly remember running from school to my home, which is like maybe 300 or 400 meters from, where I live. And I was literally running, and I was 3, and I remember there are a group of young men who were at a wholesaler or supermarket that was like, run Merlene, because they saw me running. And I remember the place shaking. So from that time, I remember I was always running, when it comes to me. And I think also my mom was an athlete, and it was something that was just there. She was like, running was gonna be my way out. It was something that she needed me to get, like, mentally get it, and you have to do it. And I didn't receive it well at that time because I didn't want to run. I ran for fun, sure, but I wasn't thinking about running being a career. I was like, okay, I'm running. And I remember my mom always saying that, if I continued, I could get a scholarship to go overseas for school, for college. And that was something that was huge for her, because she was like, I don't want you making the same mistakes I made. I wanted to graduate from high school, because my mom didn't graduate from high school. My mom ran track in high school, and, eventually she got pregnant with my older brother. And it was just almost like it was survival for her. And she instilled that. She was like, Shelly, you have to go to practice, you have to train, you have to compete, you have to go on it. And I didn't get it at that time, and eventually went to primary school. I was still running. I remember running barefooted at our championship, and I got a silver medal. And then I left for Woolman's, but at no particular time I ever thought, okay, running was a career. It was literally just honoring my mother's wishes, going to practice and training. And there were so many persons who were a part of that journey who sat me down, and they're like, oh my God, you're so talented. You just need to apply yourself. You really need to, just work hard and be committed. And I was always like, okay. Because I didn't get it, because everybody was just forcing me to do something that I wasn't necessarily receiving at that point. And I think eventually at that point, I started to accept that, okay, I like this. I started to channel my energy into it. I started showing up for practice. I started, being really committed. And then, it actually changed for me. So eventually I kind of stuck to it, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking forward to, maybe making an Olympic team, or, and really taking it on. So that's how it eventually started for me.
I love that it really kind of almost like unfolds a bit like a flower. Like it's just like real gradual. It's just taking its time. It's like slowly the layers or the petals are kind of just coming into full bloom. And with training and the commitment to running, can you talk through how you adjusted to a training, I guess a training routine, a regimen, especially as you said towards the end, as you kind of started to do it more and you committed to it, you started to then get dreams of the Olympics, like possibly making the Olympic. That is not a small thing. Like that is big.
It's
that's
not.
like the pinnacle. That's the pinnacle of the sport. So
Yeah.
you know, if that's where you're aiming, then obviously the level of training and the level of commitment has to kind of be on a next level. How did you start to mentally prepare yourself for what it's going to take?
Honestly, I think I kind of just trusted my instinct in the sense that I said a thing, you know, and saying a thing is one thing, but believing what is said is also another. And I think that was important. I actually believed what I said. Like I remember I went to the World Championship in 2007 as a reserve. And I remember sitting in the stands and witnessing so many other athletes having their moment. And I was like, okay, I want to have my moment. So mentally, I was already planting that seed, you know, that's what it is. It's mentally putting yourself in that position and knowing that, okay, after that, it involves constant work. And I remember coming back and from that games, and I realized, okay, there are a series of steps that when you have a dream or a vision or something that you want to achieve, there's a series of steps that you have to go through to get there. And it's called preparedness. And I think I came back and I realized, okay, I was a little bit too chubby, so I needed to watch what I eat. I stopped drinking soda. I went to work out at a gym, started to say, okay, I'm getting my body fat down, started to learn more about my BMI and be like, okay, I need to cut my carbs out. I really started to educate myself on what it is that I want to do. And I think that's important. Anything that you're going into, anything that you're prepared to take a step on, you have to educate yourself on it, know what you're getting in yourself into, know what it takes to get to that level.
With that shift in your mindset and even in your behavior, did you find that people shifted with you or like started to see that shift and changed how they responded to you, be it positive or negative?
I would say both for sure, because of course, you know, with any thing that you're doing, when persons don't understand what you're doing and they see a change in behavior or who you are, and if they're not used to it, then it's going to be strange, you know, they're going to be very defensive about it, especially if you're like the turn-up person, always willing to go everywhere, to do everything. And then you decide, okay, I'm finally settling down and doing something for me, really focusing on this because I need to get it right. Because not only am I depending on it, but I think my family is depending on it. You know, my future generation is depending on it. So for me, yeah, I had persons who were like, oh, she's so different. Oh, she always has to go to training. She's too busy. But at the same time, I think I had persons who were so willing to go the extra mile with me, which made a difference, you know, kind of gave me that extra strength and that boost to kind of know, okay, I'm going to keep going because these are the persons that are riding with me and kind of understand where I'm going and they want to help me get there. And it was good because I think, if I'm being honest, the persons that I lost and the persons that I gained, the ones I gained were so much better than the ones that I lost. So I think you had the negative, of course, persons who were like, oh, you're acting brand new. But then at the same time, you had those persons like, I love this new you, you know, and that kind of really reinforced in a positive way that I'm doing something good and somebody appreciates what I'm doing. And it also helps me to feel good about what I'm doing.
I think often in situations like this, people, when you shift and when you make those big life changes and you kind of commit to those life changes, naturally people are just not everyone is gonna receive that well. But we also forget that like in those losses there are gains. And I think your story just reinforced that, like, there is stuff to be gained, even though you might not feel it in that moment, and it may not happen right away, but there is always something to be gained when you're kind of shifting to be a kind of better version of yourself. What was the feeling like qualifying for the Olympics? What was going through your mind? What was going through your what were you feeling in your body? And how did you feel about qualifying, and then like the subsequent reactions to you qualifying?
So when I eventually started really working for the Olympics, I remember, 2007 to going into 2008, I was really working. I was really, really working hard, being committed to the task. And I saw the improvements, in my times at track meets, in my testing when I had like strength tests or sprint tests. I saw that what I was doing was paying off. But I'm going to say this, at the same time, I saw all of that, but I don't think my vision matched my work. Where I was working really hard, but at the same time, I was limiting my vision. It's almost like I was saying to myself, oh, I just want to make the team. I was never thinking winning a medal or gold medal or anything. I never had that. And it was strange because I remember running at my national championship. I was so nervous. I remember being so nervous, but I was prepared. I was so nervous because as much as I was working, I don't think I gave myself the room to feel like I belong. I was still struggling with belonging, where you reach this point where you receive these good things because of your work and things that you have done. But at the same time, there's a still small voice that's not so good that questions if you deserve it or if you're qualified for it. And it's one of those voices that you have to remind that, of course, I'm called, I'm chosen, I belong, I've worked hard, I am destined for this. Or you have to remind yourself in that moment. So I remember crossing the line and I came second at my national championship, and I was so excited. I went home and we were partying, and everybody was my husband. Well, Jason was my boyfriend, and he was celebrating me, and we were all having fun. And I was like, oh my God, I made the Olympics. This is like my second year out of high school, and it was crazy. And I remember having flashbacks of all the persons who probably thought I wouldn't make anything of myself, who, things like that. You have all those flashbacks. I'm like, look at me going to the Olympics. I remember I had my braces in, and I'm I was feeling so good because I wasn't necessarily always a smiler because I had like buff teeth or whatever you call it. So I already had my braces in and my teeth looked good, and I was smiling from ear to ear. I was so excited. But I remember going and my coach saying, now is when the work actually begins. Now is when you have to work. And I remember being so excited. But at the same time, I think what was difficult was that my country at the time didn't think I had enough experience to be a part of the team. They thought I was too young. They thought I didn't have any experience. But how does one get experience if they're not exposed in the situation? And I remember Jason calling me, and he was like, they had a national poll on television to ask if I should come out and let somebody else who is a little bit more seasoned than me. And honestly, looking back, I don't blame them. I'm not upset with them because they didn't know me for sure. This is a country who we've had strong representative when it comes to sprinting, and they're like, we're used to this and we can bank on this. Here's this young girl from out of nowhere that we know nothing about, just pops up and come, so I understand them questioning that. And I think whenever it is that you're on the quest to do something that you have never done before, or to chase a goal that you've been dreaming for years, you have to mentally find within yourself to basically resolve yourself of carrying people's opinions or what they think of you. You have to kind of stick to what you know and chase that. And I've always said there's two things that can happen. You're going to do good or you're not going to do good. And if you don't do good, then you go again. that's when I think I learned the power of visualization. I was always laying down and seeing myself now being in the stadium. And then I started to see myself on the podium, and I was like, all right, I just want to make the relay. I want to make the finals. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to make the finals. I started telling my friends, if I won, this is what I'm going to do. So I started to put myself in a position of expectancy. This is what I'm expecting. So I think that's what you always have to do. Always put yourself in a position of expecting. I'm expecting good things. I'm expecting to win. I'm expecting to walk away with this promotion. I'm expecting to get this new job. You always have to put yourself in that position. And I remember just getting to that line, and my coach was preparing me for this moment. It's like when you hear the gun, that's all you're listening for. And the gun is it's like, that's the only cue. It's the gun. I wasn't listening for the shout. I wasn't listening for the crowd. I wasn't listening if anybody's beside me, making any noise. I was listening to the gun. And that's when you know you're in tune with your calling. So for persons, you have to pay attention to what you're listening to or waiting for. You can't deviate from that. And I think that was for me. And I was literally at that line thinking about the gun. That's all I needed to hear. I prepared, I worked, and I'm here. The gun, nothing else. Anything else is a distraction. And I heard the gun and I took off, like a rocket. I really took off for that race. And I remember crossing the line, and I kid you not, the exact same thing I said I was gonna do, I did, crossing the line. The exact same thing. I remember just jumping, screaming. Didn't know what to do with myself. But at the same time, I was saying to myself, oh my God, I remember getting on the mic for the interview, and I was just grinning from ear to ear. I had my braces in, and I was like, oh my God, I won. For me, chasing an Olympic dream is just realizing, I think for me, I was relatively unknown, and that was a fact. So I had less pressure. And I think that's with anything. Don't put any added pressure on yourself. The moment is already big. Don't make it too big for yourself. Don't put extra pressure on yourself to do anything. You just have to take it a day at a time and continue to really dream about what it is that you want to do and focus on that. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not an overnight thing. It's months of practice. It's months of sometimes getting it wrong too. And you just need it one time to get it right one time.
Yeah, I love that. Even just listening to you retell that, and you were smiling ear to ear, and it's infectious. It's a very infectious smile you have. I would like to talk about showing up as yourself, because when I said who I'm interviewing today to a few people, they're like, oh my God, really? And then they mention the hair, and your hair has become a symbol. Like it is part of your brand. It does not have to be a lengthy answer. Maybe you just like showing up as yourself at the Olympics. How much thought and consciousness goes into the hair, ma'am? I would love to know.
I don't think a lot of persons really know how to show up as themselves, because they're so worried about what the next person is going to say, or look at them, the fact that, oh, they're so different or anything. So they're so scared to show up as themselves, And I think being an Olympic athlete or an athlete overall, I get to have my superhero moment. And I think being on the track is my superhero moment. It's almost like when you see me, it's time to put on, my cape, my hair. It's really getting into character, because on that track, I'm somebody else. It's almost like my hair gives me superpower kind of thing. Like when I'm there, I feel invincible. Like, you don't know me. This is somebody different, and you really want to enjoy the moment. I was always afraid of doing that, because you're so worried about what persons are going to think, or persons are worried about, oh, who wears this, or should you go natural, or but it's your hair. You get to decide how you want to show up. You get to decide how you want to enjoy your moment. It's celebrating your crown different ways and adding or accentuate that beauty that you already have, because I already think I'm beautiful. right? How they add in the hair is just the extra bit of razzle dazzle.
I love that. I love that there's like thought and intention and
Yes,
everything behind it. It's not just
it-
like, no,
it's
you knew how
not.
you
It's
wanted to
really
show up.
like it's months of preparations.
I
I'm
love
telling
it.
you, I already have my Pinterest board with my mood
I'm
board
so
of
dead.
what I'm going for, what color is in, what color is the flag of the country that I'm going to, all of that. I think about everything. I think about the people. I think about what I want to, how I want to have fun. I love colors. I love the bright stuff. And just being in that moment really is like a superhero moment. Like, this is not Shelly-Ann. This is the mommy rocket, right? This is the mommy rocket.
I love that so much. That has like literally brightened my day. Like, I love it so much. And that's a wrap. If you know someone that would benefit from the knowledge and wisdom shared in this episode, please do share it with them now. To keep up with Wanna Be, follow us along on your favourite podcast player or app, or follow at Content is Queen HQ on Instagram for the latest updates and episode releases. Until next time, bye.